By the end of this video, you will learn how to extend your existing variant sets, duplicate them using auto layout, update them using exposed nested instances, and create dark mode and light mode variants with no variables. If you're interested to see how we built our variants, you can watch our part 1 and part 2 video tutorials. For this video, we will learn advanced ways of using variants in 15 easy steps. Step 1. So I'm going to go ahead and double click here and copy that to my clipboard and visit the component page. Here you see we have bar chart boolean. In order for us to extend this, I don't want to touch that for now because I do want to keep this for your reference. What I need to do is just hold Option to drag one out, and then here on the layer side we see that we have bar chart boolean, which is exactly being set up correctly. So I need to do step 2, Command / and then search for detach instance. And as soon as I detach the instance, you see now we're back at auto layout. And as you can remember, the auto layout allowed us to resize our elements proportionately. Step 3. So all I have to do is right click, paste that text here, and zoom in and select the parent bar chart boolean and the text here. By doing that, I make sure I select the percentage and the bar chart boolean. Now I would Shift and A to create another auto layout. I would leave that as 4. Also, I would rename this to bar chart with percentage. So if I go ahead and zoom out, if I try to resize this, now we are again facing the issue of the bar chart not being resized. Step 4. So what we can do is selecting the nested bar chart. Again, we would just rename this to the normal bar chart, and we'll make sure that we set that as fill as well. Also, we would select our parent bar chart with percentage, and we would make sure that it is set to fixed. So this way, as soon as we try to resize this, it is being resized proportionately, and we are at 0% at the moment, which means that all we have to do is basically remove that and leave it as 0%. Also, what you do notice is if I try to zoom in, again, if I try to start typing, it's going to affect the actual size of the bar chart. Step 5. We don't want that behavior, so what I would do is making sure I have enough characters, which is 100% is the maximum amount of characters that I need. And I do see that it is being set to 36 pixels. So here I would just go ahead and instead of having it as hug, I would set it at 36 pixels. By doing that, if I go ahead and try to add any more element, it's not going to have an effect. So here at the moment, I'll just go ahead and do 0%, and I will make sure that this text is actually aligned to the right side. So I go to the typography section and I would align it to the right. So we are good to go. We managed to add a percentage value to our bar chart, and we made sure that our bar chart is being resized automatically. Step 6. So we need to repeat the same process that we did for the Boolean chart, also for the drop down chart. Each time we duplicate that, we need to add a purple color, and we need to now additionally update the percentage value. Also, what you notice is here we have an extra gap around our bar chart. If I zoom in a little bit more, here you see there is an extra gap that is being formed around our bar chart, and that is due to our text line height. Step 7. So in Figma, you have an option to go on the typography section, click on that type settings, and make sure to go to the vertical trim and trim that. As soon as you do that, now you see that there is no line height. Also, what you can do is also reduce the line height to 14 pixels. So this way, if I now zoom out and if I click on my bar chart, there is no extra space between them on top and bottom. These are just minor touches. So I can hold Option and drag this out. And now at 10%, I would just give this 10. I would select the first one. And instead of having purple, which is the 90, I would go with purple 60. So I'm going to fast forward that all the way to 100%. Step 8. So I went ahead and I fast forwarded. And as you can see, if we highlight all of them, it is working as expected, and we have the text updated. It would be nice, instead of me going and creating a variant and renaming this one at a time, I could transfer all the properties from this variant all the way to here by simply copy pasting. And the answer is yes, you can do that. Instead of having the generic name of bar chart with percentage, what you can do is you can select all of the variants on the left hand side here. If I basically drag the layers out, you see it has a weird naming convention. What we need to do is exactly double click that, copy that, double click here, and paste the rename here. So right now, if I paste it, instead of my first element being bar chart with percentage, it's actually being renamed identical to my variant on the left side. So all I have to do is basically select my variant on the left side, copy the name of the layer, select my auto layout on the right side, and paste the values. And if I repeat that same steps all the way across, step 9. So I fast forwarded and I actually copy pasted the names all the way from the left variants to my layers here on the right side. And if you go ahead and take a look at the layers, it is not human readable. What we can do is use exactly the same approach and select all of our auto layout frame that is being renamed from our variants on the left hand side. Go ahead and create multiple components and then finally combine them as variants. And what you do notice is it automatically assigned everything identical to the components that we have on the left hand side. So you can use that as your automation. If you have, again, a variant set that you want to copy paste to another variant set and extend that, you can simply go ahead and copy the name of the layer and paste that on the right side and do a one-to-one mapping. This way you have exactly identical results, but with extended functionality. So all we have to do is basically rename this to bar chart with percentage. Also, we would just give it a background color so we could see it more clearly. And now if I go ahead and try to drag this out, and if I try to zoom in to test it here, we see that we have 100%. If I do 60, not only the bar chart is being updated, the text is being updated as well. So far we managed to create, again, same variant in the 3 different versions. Step 10. So if I go ahead to my progress bar, instead of actually having it like that, I can select my bar chart boolean and I can now click on the drop down, and then here Figma tells me the option that I have the boolean component, the drop down component, and percentage. I'll go ahead and select the percentage, and if I take a look at my layer panel here, we see that we are using the bar chart with percentage value. That means I no longer need to use this content. I can simply use the drop down, delete the percentage from there. I'm making sure my content is no longer auto. I would just basically reset that back to 0, and I'll make sure instead of our category being fixed, I would select that and have that as fill. So this way our percentage is now being grouped with our bar chart and our category is not grouped with anything. So right now, if we do a test, if we try to resize this, it is working as expected. And if I try to zoom in, go to the category, and if I try to start adding some characters, you see it is being resized accordingly. Also, what you do notice is our category, there's a bit of a space. So what we can do is go to the parent auto layout frame of the category, and instead of 150, we would just reduce that a little bit. So in this example, we would go ahead and use 90 pixels. So right now we have our progress created. We would cut that using Command and X, and we would visit our page, which is the component page, which we have our bar chart, boolean, and percentage, and we would just right click, paste that there. Step 11. So we have all of our components in one single page, which is called components page. And right now we would turn this into its own component by clicking on the component icon. So what we can do is hold Option and drag this out, cut that, go to the demo, paste that here so we have an instance to work with. And now you can see as soon as we select the instance, we don't have the ability to do anything with it. So we can click this tiny icon to go to the main component, which is on the component page that we created, and start adding properties. The first property we want to add is a text property. So if I go ahead and select the category, not the parent auto layout frame, but the actual text category, I can scroll down under typography section and add a text property. So in this example, I would just rename this to category, and for the value, I would just rename this to default for now. As soon as I create that, if I go back to the demo page, as soon as I have my instance selected, if I scroll up, I have the ability to modify the category. For example, my Figma skills is 40%. If I hold Option and duplicate that, my HTML skills might be a different value. However, what you notice is once we select that, we have the ability to modify the category, but we don't have the ability to update the percentage. Step 12, we're stuck with 40% and 40%. So what we can do is we can click again to this tiny icon to go to the master component, which is progress bar. And we can hover over the properties, and as soon as we hover over that properties, we click plus, we have something called expose nested instances. I already covered expose nested instances in the component properties video, so if you want to learn more about it, you can definitely watch that video. But for now, we would just select expose nested instances and we would enable bar chart with percentage. And as soon as we do that, if I close that and go back to demo, right now we see that our instance has the ability to filter, and you see that there is a tiny drop down icon, which means that every time we select our instance, we have the ability to toggle between the nested components. So for Figma, we can do like 80%. We're good 80% using Figma. For HTML, maybe we're only good 10%. And this is how we created our progress bar. So now it's time for us to group them. So we can select both of them and do Shift and A to create an auto layout. And then here we would just rename this to column. And right now we would select our HTML, Command D multiple times to create our progress bar. So here I would just rename these categories, for example, to CSS 50%, and then JavaScript 90%. And then for example, VS Code, we would do 100%. Step 13. So if you're happy with this, What we can do to improve this, we can go and add round corners to our progress bar by simply going to the components. Here you see we have our progress created. Again, you have to make sure to select all the variants on your bar chart. Press return on your keyboard to select all of them. Use tab to navigate between your children elements, and you can select the bar chart, and under appearance you can basically give your radius like 500, and once you give your corner radius 500, you have to make sure to enable clip content. By doing that, you are clipping your progress bar. So now if I go ahead and select my demo, here you see my progress bar is actually being rounded. We can actually move them using our arrow on our keyboard. So here we can organize them by the highest to the lowest. Also, what we do notice is there is not enough space between each of them. So we can go ahead and visit the components. Here we have that progress. If I click on that and scroll down, we only gave it 8 pixels in all direction. So we can hold command, click on that padding and just give it 16. So it's added 16 pixels on left and right and top and bottom. So now if I go back to my demo page, you see my progress bar has more space. Step 14. Finally, I can just, instead of column, I can rename this to card and drag this out. So we have, again, different colors to work with. So for the top one, we can have our card being light, and the bottom one, we can have it as dark. And the way it works is we have to go to our component. Because we created our progress, we have to make sure to add another variant. So here the progress is created, so I can click on that and go ahead and click on that tiny icon. You see it says add variant. As soon as I do that, I now added my second variant, and now it tells me what do you want your second variant to be. At first, I need to select my progress. I'm making sure on the property one, I double click that and renaming this to light. And as soon as I do that, I need to give one of them true and the other one false. So the first one for the light, I would just give it true, and the second one for the light, I'll give it false. And since the second one is set to false, I now need to revert the colors so I have a dark theme to work with. Step 15. So I can click outside, and if I take a look at the color styles that I have on the right hand side, I have light, purple, and background. I need to select my second one, scroll down. The first color I need to work with is a light background 100%. So I need to change it to dark background and a different color. So for the fill, I would just hover over that, detach the style, and then I would click on that panel, and I will make sure to use the eyedrop and select the main color. For my background color, I'm making sure on the HSL side, I would reduce the saturation to 40%, and I would reduce again the lightness to 15%. So once I'm happy with this, I can click on that 4 dots and go ahead and add that to my library using plus. And I have to make sure again, it is not under variables, it is under styles. So I would go ahead and rename this to dark/background/15%. So I'll create that style, and Figma automatically linked that for me. So as you can see, we managed to create the light color structure. Now we are creating our dark background color. So all I have to do is select that, scroll down, and instead of having this as light purple 60, I would detach that and change the color values. So I would just go ahead and zoom in to see how it looks like. So I'll make sure that I increase the saturation to 100%. Also, I would increase the lightness maybe to 70%, which is a bit lighter than the top one. And once I'm happy with this color, I would click again on the 4 dots, plus, and I would select the styles, and then I would just rename this to dark purple and then 70%, and then create that. And then finally we have light purple 90%. So I would go ahead and detach that, select that, and I would make sure I select a dark background. So I'll use the eyedropper, select the background color, and as you can see, it is hidden now. So all I have to do is just increase the lightness a little bit. So instead of 50, we can go to 40, for example. Now you can see that the progress bar is being updated, and I have to create another style out of that. So I went ahead and renamed it to dark purple 40. And then finally we have the text color. I forgot to actually add the text color to the color styles. So what I can do is I can select the text color on the fill, repeat the same. So I went ahead and I renamed it to light text 30. And for the bottom one, I would just select that. Instead of having this as light 30%, I would just increase that to 100% white. And then I would just rename this to dark text 100%. So as you can see, we have our light colors, which is purple background with a text color, and we have our dark colors, which is again a background color, a purple, and a text. Instead of purple, since we added these colors, now we can actually go ahead and tweak them. For example, if the contrast is not enough on the dark, instead of 70, you can just simply click that, modify that, for example, to 80%. And as you can see, it is a bit lighter and it has more contrast. And as soon as you make the modifications, you can go ahead and update that. And by doing that, if I click on my component, you see now the name and the colors are all being updated as well. You can see that once you select the selection colors, as soon as we have our dark component, the selection color colors are all coming from the dark folder. If I go ahead and select the white one, all the selections are coming from the light color folder. And now if I go ahead and select my master component, as you can see, we have our light. If I select the first one, we set it to true. If I select the second one, the light version, we set it to false, which means we have to go to the demo, select our second card, use return on our keyboard to select everything, and then we have this toggle. So as soon as I turn this off, now we have our dark version created for us. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more design tips and tutorials, and let me know what you think in the comments down below.